Occasional talking head for smallcaps.com.au. Yours truly, James Whelan, here with a special one-off. We're joined on this very special event, and congratulations to them. Litchfield Minerals joining me today. Matthew Pustahya, Managing Director of Litchfield Minerals, ASX-listed explorer, focused on base metals and uranium up in the Northern Territory. I wish I was there right now. I'm sure the weather is fine. He's joining us from on site. We're going to find out a bit more about that as we get into. Now, the reason for this chat, apart from it being a great company in a critical, he says, a lightly critical space, they've just been selected for BHP's highly competitive 2026 Xplor Global Accelerator Program. I'm pretty keen on this program, securing $1,000 in non-dilutive funding and direct access to BHP's technical expertise. Matthew, how are you now? Congratulations on the selection.
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks. We've stopped swimming. It was raining a lot last week. We're just waiting for a drill rig to rock up today, which will be exciting. We're going to go and drill about 7 holes, so that's really good. Thank you for having us today, James. I really appreciate the opportunity to have a chat with you.
Not a problem at all. First off, so I love that it's sleeves up. It's all sleeves up out here. I'm in an office. You're in a slightly less desirable, or maybe more desirable workplace out there. Matthew, where are you right now, and what are you working on? And also, just a quick overview of Litchfield too.
Yeah, cool. We're at the Oonagalabi project, which is about 180 kilometres northeast of Alice up the Plenty Road. Yeah, we've been working hard. Today, the genset for the camp went down, so that's why I was a bit late. So I apologise that, but we've got a bush fix up and running. When I finish this, I'll go and fix it up again. Where are we? Where are we up to? We've just done a diamond drill campaign and another smaller RC campaign. We were hoping to start off with an RC campaign. However, one of the drillers pulled out last minute. So we've just found a replacement RC driller. We're drilling a couple holes like the VT1 3000 Siemens conductor, which we think is a massive sulfide. We're drilling VT2, which is a massive sulfide conductor, which we've drilled out. There's some chargeability anomalies we want to test there. And then we're also drilling that main zone, which is the main zone of the Oonagalabi system. We'll be testing the northern, central, and southern zone of that part of the system. So look, we're really excited. We're on top of it. It's only March. We've already done so much. This will be taking us up to almost 3,000 metres by the end of this campaign. So we are knocking it out of the park. Why explore? Why has Xplor chosen us?
You just run the interview. I'll just sit back, mate. It's okay.
No, I thought that was part of the question.
No, that's not a question. I was just going to say. So let's talk about Xplor. What is being selected by Xplor? Actually, on the side, I reckon you're in a far more desirable location than I am just now. You've got a couple of kangaroos running on the treadmill, keeping the generators going.
Mate, if I took you outside right now, you'd be blown away with how beautiful this part of the country is. It's gorgeous country. It's stunning. But look, why Xplor, I suppose? Well, Xplor chose us because we sit in a really good position and we're drilling out some really nice polymetallic hits. But we're right on the boundary of the Aileron, the Irandena formation. Irandena province. And then we've got the Oonagalabi formation running through it, which has absorbed a whole heap of fluid and metal. So we're in a really good part of the country. We're in a really good belt, and they're excited to be here. But why are we excited about Xplor? Well, look, it's sort of designed to give early stage explorers like us more than sort of just access to capital. It's designed to give us some sort of technical expertise, and we need a lot of that technical expertise here at Oonagalabi. We've had 4 or 5 deformation events. It's very folded. It's quite complex. We also think there's deeper parts to the system which we don't really have specialty in visualizing. We can sort of see down 0 to 500, but we can't really see below 500 meters with any good visibility, and BHP's expertise will help us sort of see through that. What's also really exciting is, you mentioned it before, it's sort of equity free. So, I mean, we're not taking any dilution here and we're getting all the expertise in the world, which is really great. And I suppose one thing that I'm learning about the BHP system is they don't think about like just smaller deposits. They think about scale, so they set us up with the tools to think about how we can scale up both commercially, but also geologically, right? What should we be looking for? Where should we be looking? And it changes our whole school of thought around exploration, which is really good for us because we're starting to operate more as a larger company, even though we're a small company. And that's really exciting for us.
That certainly is. And I can see how BHP would. Let's try and just unpick some of what it was that you mentioned. Talk about the geological concepts. Now, I'm not going to try and repeat what it says. I've just gotten the hang of Oonagalabi. You mentioned some of the sections that you've got going on there. What sets that apart from other applicants through Xplor? What's different about the geology?
Well, look, I mean, we can start. What sets us apart is we're in a really good belt that's completely underexplored. And if you scale back this belt, there's a lot of different mineral systems going on here. And so where's that all come from? What caused that? I suppose from the bigger picture, that's really exciting. How can we solve that? In terms of Oonagalabi itself, look, we think we've got two sort of systems going on. We've got the Oonagalabi system, which is probably 1.8 billion years old. But then, as I said, we did a VTEM survey and a magnetic survey. And what we were saying was that on those magnetic anomalies which are coming out of the contact between the aileron and the Irundina, we're seeing massive sulfide conductors, so basically pimples of massive sulfides coming up, and we're questioning, is that a second event? Because generally speaking, when you get these really good pieces of crustal architecture that are long-lived, you'll generally get 1, 2, 3, 4 mineralization events through them if they're really good structures. Mm-hmm. So we think there's been a couple mineralization events happen at Oonagalabi across, those large timescales. And we're excited to sort of work with BHP to understand that better in hope to finding a tier 1 deposit at Oonagalabi.
Okay.
That's...
No, I get you. Now let's talk about the technical expertise. How physically is BHP's input going to be assisting on the technical framework for what it is that you've got planned?
Yeah, look, we're scaling back a lot of things. We're looking a lot deeper than we'd normally look, and we've got the best industry experts working with us. So basically a couple key questions we want to ask is like, do we have the right melts coming from way below? And then do we have, these mantle tapping structures which touch them and bring all that fluid forward? And then once we answer those type of questions, well, where are those crustal scale structures that they're hitting? And then where should we be looking? And basically what we're doing right now with BHP is we're answering those questions, and then we should know where to look so that we can, get to a point where we're sort of 90% confident we know we're in the right zone, and then we can go and drill it. So it's just a little bit more methodical than what we traditionally do at Litchfield. It does take a little bit longer, but the efficiency you'll get on the back end of that because you have capital cost efficiencies, and you should also be in the right area reasonably quickly rather than going to spend and drill and vector in that way. So look, from a technical standpoint, that's great. Also, one thing that's really helping me is that I am able to work with some of the best mining leadership coaches out there. So it's not just about, geological excellence. They also help you with commercial excellence. And look, I'm dealing with some really good tier 1 industry level leadership and business coaches that are helping me talk through some of the issues that I'm going through commercially and helping me, organize my chaos. I've got a bit of chaos in my brain, and they help me really organize that. It's good having the chaos, especially if you can make it work. But they're teaching me little hints and tips on how to make that even more efficient. So look, really, really, really helpful. And then, aside from the commercial aspect, you've got that geological coaching, and we're dealing with some of the industry experts.
Yeah.
The best guys, best women in the industry from the geological perspective. They've also got technologies that we would never be able to use. They've got processing power, which we would never be able to get. And we're basketing that all together. And, at the end of this, we might not be a tier 2 company or tier 3 company in terms of our market cap, but our thinking will be at that tier 2, tier 3 scale, which is really exciting.
I was just getting to. You've got the enthusiasm of the entrepreneur before you've had the market beat it out of you. And trust me, I've seen it happen, which is great. You've still got this small energy of a company that's right on the cutting edge of actually being out there fixing up generators as you go through the day, but with big company thinking behind you and also the technology to help you make some of those bigger decisions that you can make and go a little bit further. I can see how it all ties together quite well.
Yeah, it does. And look, for me, it's difficult because I'm a doer. So I like to get out in the field and do things because the field always has issues, and I'm really good at solving issues and solving problems very quickly where other people might not be able to solve them as quickly. But what they're teaching me is at some point I need to step back away from that and focus on the commercial side. And I was really hoping to get out and do that this year, but unfortunately we had a resignation come in, and now we've just all got to get together. So we've got a new geologist, Matt McGloin, starting. He's a genius. He's one of the only experts in the Aileron and Irundina province. He worked at the Northern Territory Geological Survey for 5 years, where he basically focused on this area. So he knows these rock types better than anybody else. He knows the history better than anybody else. And then he worked at IGO in this same area for the last 7 years. So I'm really happy to have him on board, because what it's going to do is enable me to step back from that commercial perspective so I can actually develop this company into a tier 2 type company, hopefully a tier 1 one day, but definitely that tier 3 to tier 2 level over the medium term. And I really need to do that. I need to step back a bit and get in the offers for a little bit.
That'll be good. I'm looking forward to seeing you out here getting. Don't sell out too soon, my friend. It's but you do at some stage you have to get into that next stage and get into the boardrooms and actually talk to people who bore the hell out of you. It's less of a fixing it job and more of a selling it job, which is out there. It's tough. And I look forward to having you out here when you do head over to Sydney next time. So I'm not going to take up too much more of your time here, Matthew. We've talked about the geology, we've talked about the tech, we've talked about the benefits of having $500,000 US put in there, equity free, which is fantastic to be able to kick you along to the next level. The thinking, the coaching, which is great, and still keeping your entrepreneurial spirit and the ability to get out there and can do, which is great. Now, finally, for investors and for listeners, because we're all about the investors out here, following Litchfield, what should they be watching for as the Xplor program gets underway? What are the next key milestones for you?
Yeah, look, the Xplor program will probably start showing its face a little bit more after Aegis on the 14th of April. By that stage, we should have a lot of this data back and we will be able to present that to market. So that will be really exciting. And for the market, it's probably a little bit slower than what they're expecting because as Litchfield, they follow us, they know we just go and hit the ground running. But that's why we haven't sort of talked about Xplor very much because we just don't have that information back to actually release something on it. But we should have that information back mid-April. And then from mid-April, they will get a lot more visibility on the Xplor program and why we're doing what we're doing with them. And look, from the investment base and our shareholder base and potentially new shareholders, we've been stung recently. We came all the way from almost $1.20 down to, I don't know where we are now, 35, 40 cents. I think we've got some good value. We've got still a lot of cash in the bank and we're a smallish market cap. We've got a tier 1 company setting us up for success. We've got the right ingredients for a good mineral system here. I apologize to the shareholders that the shareholdings come on, the share prices come off a bit, but I mean, that's the market, right? Like we're thinking longer term. These market swings happen in just stick with us. We're a good company. We spend the money in the ground. Over 85% of our money from the IPO went into the ground. And I think it's more than that or just on that now since we've raised again. And we're not a lifestyle company. We're here to find a system and develop into a, tier 2, tier 1 company, hopefully tier 1. One day, that'll be really nice.
Okay. Well, not a problem at all. I think that if there was anyone wondering why this company had been chosen for BHP's Xplor program, I think we've just put any questions to bed there. Definitely got the excitement. Definitely, it's also got BHP don't just pick these things out of the air either. Like that, they do their homework on this, and I think they've definitely made a smart decision with this one as well. Thank you for joining us out here, MD of Litchfield Minerals, Matthew Pustahya, for joining us. Congratulations again on BHP Xplor.
No, I appreciate it, James. Thank you very much for taking the time with me this morning.
Not a problem at all. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm James Whelan, occasional talking head for smallcaps.com.au. Have a great day and stay safe.